I'm Kamerie Gibson. Welcome to the Kamerie Gibson Show, the podcast. I believe that one of the most precious gifts you can share with someone is your story. Pain has purpose and stories can change lives. Your journey to become more inspired and transformed by the lives of those around us starts now. Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to the Kamerie Gibson Show, where we talk about transforming our pain into power. And today I have a lovely guest with me here today. His name is Charles. Charles, would you mind introducing yourself to the audience for me, please?
Yes. Good afternoon. My name is Charles Koen Jr. I am here on the Kamerie Gibson Show. Thank you for inviting me. It is a joy to be here.
Yes, thank you so much. Oh, wait, real quick, production etiquette. As long as your phone is on vibrate, we should be good.
Oh, okay.
So nobody interrupts our flow. Forgot to mention that.
Got you.
Thank you. But okay, so Charles, can you talk to us about what you currently do in your work?
Yes. So, I actually work in education. I am a reading interventionist. I work for a company called Literacy Now. I am the site coordinator at Bruce Elementary. And what we do is we pull kids out of class that are behind in reading. I currently work with first and second grade, and we pull them out of class and work with them on small group intervention because the teacher isn't always able to give them that. So it really helps to have a program that teaches them like letters and sounds and how to blend them together. And we really help with their literacy.
Okay, so when you said this off the record at first about helping young people with reading, so I know that Black boys tend to struggle behind the most when it comes to reading. I know in my experience, I started reading before my brother did. What do you see as far as like the gender gap is concerned when it comes to literacy performance? Did you hear me?
I could not. It actually froze.
It froze on you too. Okay. My question was, what have you found to be the differences in reading literacy when it comes to the genders?
When it comes to the genders, honestly, I haven't really noticed a difference in the genders. I'm not saying that it's not there. It's just not something that I've noticed. I've noticed more of a difference in, I want to say, ethnicity, because I noticed when it comes to Spanish speakers, they're usually more behind. However, I noticed that once the Spanish speakers are able to really kind of learn the letters and the letter sounds, they pick up really quickly.
What are some tricks that you have for the students who may be struggling with like confidence?
Tricks I have with students that struggle with confidence is affirmation, constantly affirming them that they're doing a good job. I have noticed that a lot of students that are behind in reading, it has a lot to do with confidence. And if you can build their confidence, even if they don't know what they're doing, that confidence, it helps. Because a lot of times they're afraid to even try to look at a book. But if you can instill that confidence, you will definitely see progression.
Got you. What was your experience like when it came to reading? Like, what was it like for you that it made you want to help other young people?
Well, I'll say I have been reading since I was like 4 years old. My mom was a teacher, so she taught me how to read at a really young age. And I've never really struggled with reading, and I've always enjoyed it, had fun doing it. I read a lot of books when I was a kid. I was an English major in college, so I got my degree in English. So I don't know, reading intervention felt like the perfect fit because it's just something that I've loved and enjoyed all my life. And to be able to help other kids have that same passion is a joy.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's so amazing. Was your dream always to be an educator?
Not at all. I ran from teaching, and I really felt like God just kept calling me back to it, but I always ran from it. And, but I'm here, and I didn't know that I would love reading intervention as much.
Yeah, man, you saying that this morning I was doing my journal writing and I was like, to be honest, Kamerie, I think you do like the idea of being a teacher or like educating and giving back. I went to a Black Male Educators Network event yesterday with my younger brother, and they were talking about the shortage of Black male educators that exist, especially in the district I was school advised, called Los Angeles Unified School District, LAUSD, one of the worst school districts in the country, by the way. And I was just like, man, like, I think the pay is one of the things that discourages a lot of people from wanting to become a teacher in this current time period. I know for me, I'm like, I live in LA. I just can't deal with that type of stress, but it seems like out of all the other careers you can have, one of the most noble ones has to be the ones where you have to go back and slow down and teach people, and bring people up to speed to even be able to digest and comprehend other complex concepts that life is going to throw at you, So if you don't got that foundation in our children properly, like, laid and astute, then how are we going to plan out these futuristic shit? They're the ones who have to carry it. So when you said that, I'm like, man, I feel you on that. So what would you say could be like the pros and cons of working in education as well?
I'll say the pros is it's very rewarding. Just working with children and being able to make a difference in their lives, like you said, setting up their futures. So there's a lot of pros. The kids really grow on you, and that intimacy is just out of this world. But cons are you're overworked, you're underpaid. It's a lot of time. And then for people who are like married or starting families, it's really hard for them to balance, being a teacher, but also being a family person. And a lot of times that balance is lacked. Either they put too much into the classroom or not enough into the classroom. And so those are some of the cons of it. But I guess it really just depends on the person.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So I was thinking about that too. Even now, like, I feel like our world is so focused on work. But I'm like, why have we not gone back to like the beginning? Like, we can't always throw the old ways of doing things out the window because they got people through those times. So I'm thinking the whole village concept, I don't know why people say it, but it was created for a reason and it means a lot. So I'm like, there has to be a way to where we can segment these different sectors of our life so that we're not feeling like we're cheating ourselves out of, So I was thinking yesterday at the education event, why are we like plummeting this damn system to give us more funding and blah, blah, blah? Like, what have you thought about like breaking away or like the idea of education going more to the home and being more home centered and like less outside?
I just want to make sure I'm getting clarification on your question. Are you saying like homeschooling, or are you saying?
I would say homeschool is an option, but I was thinking making just education more communal. So if maybe there's like the schools are smaller, but there are like more of them. I don't know. Like, how would you envision education being improved for the future? Guess that's my question. What can be improved?
That's a really hard question. I would say I don't necessarily have an answer to that question, but I do have some ideas that maybe could improve. I guess I would say, number one, having more incentives for teachers, because a lot of teachers are quitting because of all the things that they're going through, lack of support. I would also say learning how to focus on the needs of the children, because sometimes I feel like the children's needs get overlooked and there's so many things going on at home that cause them to not function as well as they could in school. I guess those are two improvements I could think of.
Empathy, honestly.
Yeah.
And being present. I feel like presence alone is enough to like make people want to do what you're saying or like want to work with you, child to student, child to teacher, student to teacher. Anyways, moving off of that, going to the English major. What made you choose an English major out of all the degrees you could have chosen from? I hear that an English major usually means you're going to be a teacher. Like there's not really much else that comes out of that. So
Yeah, I hear that too. I started off in administrative justice, and then I changed my major to communication because I had a background in communication. I went to Jack Yates High School, so I had a huge background in communication. And then I ended up changing again. I was just having a hard time finding what actually interested me. And then I find it was like, well, I've been writing all my life and reading all my life. Maybe I should try English. And I was told that, every time I told people I was an English major, they were like, oh, so you're going to be a teacher? And I was like, no. But like you said, something I've been noticing is with my English degree, it's hard to find anything that's not in education.
Yeah, I was thinking that. I'm like, English, unless you write a book or I don't know. But also, man, since I've been out of college, so my major was in RTF, radio, television, and film, but I just said communications because that's what it all is under one umbrella. But it's like, I don't know. Like, do you think college was necessary for you to get to where you are now? I mean, obviously you went through it already, but what would you say about college?
I'm so indifferent towards college. I think it can be beneficial. I will start off by saying I don't think college is for everyone. I definitely think people need to be ready so you don't just waste money. You really kind of want to go in the mindset of kind of already knowing what you would like to do. Otherwise, you'd be spending a lot of money unless you're just wealthy and you got the money to do that. I mean, it is a good place to find yourself, but it's extremely expensive. And even though I went to school all those years, I did get a degree, but it's still hard to find a job.
It really is, man. It's kind of like it. They call it the post grad depression or something, but I think it's like some type of. Have you heard of that too? Where like after seniors graduate, if they don't have like success finding a job in their industry, that's when, like I said, a depression starts to like develop and stuff. You're back home. Did you kind of experience anything like that when you were looking for work? I know I did personally. I was like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I spent 6 years in school. Like I need some money. Like, people looking at you like, what are you doing now? You graduated. Like, what was it like for you?
Yeah. I didn't really experience that. I experienced pressure because I got married right out of college and, I'm scrambling for a job and I just feel like the people around, were looking like, man, y'all married, you need to figure it out. So it was a lot of pressure. I didn't really experience the depression, but I do know someone or I know of people that did experience that when they weren't able to find jobs in their field.
Yeah, it can be rough. Just being an adult, being in your 20s, like I'm 25 and I'm like, damn, like what am I doing with my life? Like I got 4 years left before I'm 30. Don't judge me. But how has navigating adulting been like for you? Yeah. On top of being married too. Now you're married. You're really an adult.
Yeah. So navigating adulting, it has been extremely tough. Being an adult is so difficult. And, there's times where you just want to be young again and you want to take off, but I mean, you just can't once you have those responsibilities. But I will say adulting it kind of threw me out there and made me a man really and before I had these types of responsibilities, I could be a little bit more lackadaisical, be a little bit more lazy at times. But now there is no option to do that. I have to take care of my responsibilities. And it really put me in a place where honestly, it made me closer to God because now I'm so stretched that I have no choice but to be responsible and give it all to God.
And from what I've heard, I was just about to segue into the spirituality and Christianity aspect too, but I was going to say that would you say that responsibility is associated or tied to a man's purpose? I mean, doesn't responsibility make you a man or being able to be responsible? How would you define manhood for yourself?
That's a good question. Is responsibility, you said You said, is it tied to manhood? Repeat the
Is it tied
question.
to a man's purpose? Is responsibility like sacrifice tied to a man's purpose?
Okay. Okay. I would say in some way, yes. I'm the type of person that I believe in like multiple different things being tied to our purpose. So I think responsibility is definitely one. I think honestly, I feel like it's tied to every person's purpose. Like we all have some responsibilities that we have to take care of. But I would also say, just the things that give us drive, that's tied to our purpose. For example, mine is teaching. That's tied to my purpose because it's just, I don't know, it gives me drive, but then also my responsibilities as a husband, as a man of God, um, even in my career, that's a responsibility. I don't know. I feel like multiple different things factor into our purpose.
Oh, no, I agree. I like it. Um, how has, wait, would you say you're spiritual or religious? How do you define that for yourself?
I like to consider myself very balanced. So I think that I really think it's good to be both spiritual and religious. And I'm gonna say why. If you get too religious and you're not spiritual enough, you can become real legalistic. You can become real, like, I don't know the word, like rigid. You can kind of miss the point of spirituality if you become too religious. But if you become too spiritual and you don't have religion, a lot of people can start to lack discipline. So I consider myself really balanced. I consider myself both spiritual and religious, because I do religiously talk to God every day, and I religiously read my word. But I also give room for the spirit to talk to me. I don't just follow textbook Christianity. I allow the Holy Spirit to talk to me and share things that might not always make sense.
Okay, you got stuck. Okay. I'm thinking, when was this idea of balance introduced to you? Were you always this way? Were you always tied to spirituality, religion?
I'm gonna say no. I used to be religious and didn't even know it. I used to be very I used to be very rigid, straight by the book. I followed a lot of textbook Christianity. I feel like I was kind of trained that way, um, and kind of taught like this is how it's supposed to be. I almost feel like my natural instinct was every time a situation came up, I went straight to the Bible, but I didn't go to the God who created the Bible.
Mm.
So as I began to like kind of leave religion and get around people that kind of showed me the other side, it really helped. And I love my pastor. His name is Pastor Cy Allen III. He's always talking to me about balance and the importance of balance. And he really helped me understand how important it is to communicate with God and to really learn how to hear his voice and listen to what he's saying. He has a famous saying where he always says, like, you cannot be all word and you also can't be all spirit. He says, if you're all word and no spirit, you get legalistic. Um, and he also said that if you have too much spirit and no word, you get fanatical. And he always talks to me about balance.
I love that. Okay, just to give the audience some context, so how me and Charles even know each other to have this discussion is we both attended this weekly or biweekly Bible study um, group meeting every Thursday at Willard Avenue Baptist Church in Houston, Texas. What were you gonna say?
Oh no, I couldn't hear you. It had cut you out for a second.
Oh, you could hear me? Okay. Well, I was just saying how we met. But yeah, we met at Willard Avenue Baptist Church where they were doing Bible studies, right?
Hmm.
Bible study sessions. Um, so how did you hear about Willard and when did you start going there to the Bible studies?
So I would say early in my Christian walk, I think I was about like 20. I was looking for Christians my age to fellowship with, and at my church, or at the church I grew up at, there weren't any Christians my age. Everyone was older, so I was feeling kind of lonely in my walk, and I started experimenting, looking for churches that had like college age students, and it was suggested to me that I try out Wheeler Avenue. So I went to their college Bible study, and I loved it. You know, it was fun to finally be around people my age that were actually Christian, and I just kept going because it was just such a fun place to be in during that time in my life.
It was fun. I think I heard about Willard from my homie, Davion. That's Dorsey DDP Connection, LA, Ty. So he's the one that introduced me to it when I first transferred. So I transferred from a college in the Bay Area, 2018, started going, went to the like summer vacation Bible school thing. And I really liked Willard. It's a little too big for my liking, but I really liked it for like the fellowship aspect, like you said. Okay. So Willard Avenue. Also, y'all, Willard Avenue is like I think it's a historical church, right?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. You're from there, you know. And then from Willard Avenue, things stopped because the pandemic happened. What was like life for you when that like disrupted everything? Were you still able to like go to church, or were you still active? How did you?
So the pandemic was actually real funny. So when I had gotten married, we felt led to actually leave our churches, because I was actually a member of Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church. My wife was a member of Wheeler Avenue, and we decided to find a church together. So I actually ended up leaving my church, and she left hers. And then the pandemic literally happened right then, like literally like days after I had a conversation with my pastor. The world was shut down, and so all 2020, I'm looking for a church, but I'm doing it online. So as I'm looking online, it's really hard to have those same experiences that you would have in the building. But I would say it was hard for me to find a church, for one, because I was looking for something that was similar to my home church, but I think God was trying to show me something new. So that took a while. And then I finally, gave Transformation Church a try. I was watching them online with my wife. And I was watching them for months, and it was pretty good. I really enjoyed it. And then I started visiting Pastor Sai's church, and I noticed that a lot of like their beliefs were similar to the stuff I was learning at Transformation Church. So it was a very easy transition, and I wanted to be somewhere that was meeting in person, which New Direction was doing. And I don't know, once I got there, I found a family. Like, man, they love you so much.
Man, just to give the audience more context. Okay, so I remember that was happening. So I know for me, I was going to Willard Avenue. Me and Daniel, my partner at the time, were attending Willard Avenue Baptist Church for Bible study on Thursdays after class and stuff. We had a little system, and then we were going to, I think, what is it called? New Direction. What is the name of the church? New Direction, Love. Oh, kind of broke up. Can you hear me?
I can now.
Oh my god. Well, good thing the software, it records, and like when I edit it, anytime it pauses and stuff, it doesn't catch that. Like it's still good. So
Okay, cool.
even if I can't hear you or vice versa, like it still captures it. But
Okay.
anyways, I was saying, what was the name of the church? It's New Direction.
Yeah, New Direction Community of Love Church.
New Direction Community of Love Church. I'm sorry. So I heard about the church in 2019. I told you a friend had told me about it. She was going there. It's a little further too from where we lived at. So it was about like a 30-40 minute drive for me and my partner at the time. But I really loved it. Like you said, Pastor Sai is awesome. The church, I think they had what is the person they can they're like really in tune. They can like see stuff, or they can like sense your. It was, but anyways, I remember the first time I went on Sunday, they had that man, and he was like just shouting out at different people and saying what he saw right in their life.
Prophet Anthony.
Was he dark skinned and big?
Yeah.
Yeah, dark skin. Yeah, him. Yep. But they call him a prophet. There we go. He's a prophet. And I'm new, and I'm sitting there, and he points at me, and he says, "You're going to be a curse breaker in your family," or something he had said to me. And like, for some reason, I was going through a lot of stuff. I think I was like homeless and stuff. I was like doing a lot in Houston, trying to get it together. So that's why I even went to church, trying to speed my story up. But he had pointed out to me, and I don't know, just the way that Pastor Sai's wife, Yolanda, kind of just like comforted me, and just how they were attentive to everybody in that church. I don't know. I just loved it. So what about New Direction keeps you coming back?
I would have to say, a lot of the stuff you pointed out, just, number one, how the spirit moves. I learned more about the spiritual side of God, through New Direction. Cause I came from a lot of religion, and to see that the spirit could still move like that in miraculous ways, that is what I had been searching for years. And, you know, that was kind of frowned upon. When I was searching for that, people would tell me I was looking for emotionalism. But so I've been searching for that for years, and then I finally found a church, and I'm seeing God move in miraculous ways. I remember the second time I was there, Elder Albert Abu preached, and he said it was a prophetic message, and everything he was saying was what I was going through, even down to his story was exactly what I was going through at the time. And then I met up with him afterward. He was telling me stuff about my life that people didn't know, and I just met him. This is my first time meeting him. So I guess what kept me coming back was just seeing God in new ways. And then I've never been to a small church before, so this is the first time I experienced that level of intimacy. And then also, I had just I never experienced rapid growth like that in my life before. Like, ever since I started going there, I've been growing rapidly like never before.
No, yeah, damn, Brother Abu, I forgot about him for a second. He has the locks, right? Dark skin.
Yeah.
Yeah, need to get him on here too. Woo.
Yeah.
But man, that church is small but mighty. Definitely. That's definitely that church. But yeah, so you're an educator, you love teaching, you're committed to growing, getting closer to God, being stable. So much so that you took initiative and started your own TCU ministries, where you get on there and you educate people, you put on different Bible studies virtually. Can you talk about your vision for TCU?
Yes. So TCU actually started as a small college Bible study at TSU, at Texas Southern University. We used to meet on campus and do Bible studies. I was originally doing it through Good Hope Missionary Baptist Church, but when I left Good Hope, my pastor told me that I could keep the ministry and that it was my ministry. And then during the pandemic, we had to go virtual. And when we went virtual, the numbers just skyrocketed. And we started getting all these views. So to this day, we're still doing virtual. We meet on Zoom, and we also have Facebook Live, and we do YouTube. And yeah, so we have 3 different places you can watch our Bible studies. But I don't know, I just felt God leading me to turn it into an organization. And so we are an official 501c3 nonprofit organization incorporated with the state of Texas. Cool. We do a lot for the community. We do, homeless projects. We give to back to school drives. We give to like shelters for pregnant women and women with children. We give to like those shelters that like provide financial resources and economic resources. We do a lot. So we do a lot of community building as well as spiritual building. and we have Bible study every Tuesday. The vision is eventually to go back to in person, but I'm just letting God lead me for right now.
Go back in person. So what do you typically talk about? Like, what are your typical discussions like?
So man, it's a lot. We talk about a lot of stuff. Right now we're currently going through a series about the authority and power of the believer. We just wrapped up how God gives us the power to get wealth. But we talk about a lot of different things, whether it's we're about to do a series called How to Hear God's Voice More Clearly. I don't know. I just feel like it's just so much we talk about. Usually whatever the Spirit just leads me to talk about, I'll start studying on that and preparing for that. But man, we talk about so much, whether it's practical or spiritual.
I love that. Has there been a time where you felt like you couldn't hear God clearly?
Yes, absolutely. As a matter of fact, it was right before TCU became a nonprofit. We were still considered a college Bible study. We had already become virtual, but during that time, I could not hear God. Thank God we were taking like breaks every semester because we were still a college Bible study at the time. And I could not hear God's voice, and I was really trying to hear him. And then I remember on YouTube, after constantly telling God I couldn't hear his voice, I saw a sermon by Mike Todd called God Still Speaks. And then I watched the sermon, and right after that, it was like the Lord's voice was activated. Since that day, that was January 2021. Since that day, I've never had that problem again. And I have never stopped hearing God's voice more clearly because now I'm more open to his voice. Before that, I was still kind of getting out of that religion and I really couldn't hear his voice like that. But I have not turned back since.
I love that. Did you always go to God as a little boy? Did you always go to this other space to get that insight when you were going through problems in life?
No. I so I grew up in the church. I did. Well, let me not say I grew up in the church. I grew up as a church goer, and we weren't faithfully going probably till I was about 11. And I say 11, 12, I was in children's church, youth church. I was learning about God, and I was like, okay, this thing is kind of cool. And then one day I was taught the gospel of Jesus Christ. I was taught that if you believe in Jesus, that that all your sins are forgiven and that he took them on the cross, so you are forgiven. So in my 12-year-old mind, I was like, wait, so that means I can do whatever I want and I'm forgiven? And honestly, I abused the grace of God from 12 all the way to 19. And I was in the world. I was doing crazy stuff. Like, it's some stuff on here I can't even say because I'm ashamed that I was doing. But just so people can know my story, I will say this. I went to Jack Yates High School. It's in Third Ward, Texas. And when I got there, I started conforming to the people around me, started living a life that really wasn't me. By the time I was 18, 19, I was in the streets with real thugs, real gangsters, doing all kind of stuff I had no business doing. And my life had gotten so bad and I was so depressed. And here's the thing, everything I thought I wanted, I had, but it didn't answer the void that was inside of me. So by the time I got 19, I had just gotten so depressed and so tired of life that I could hear the Holy Spirit saying, you know what you need to do? You need to give your life to Christ. And I kept fighting him on it. I did not want to do it. So it took a few more months, but I finally did it.
No, man, I know that feeling. Man, I go through that. I think we all go through that in different aspects of life, but that like strong pull when it's like, what else you gonna do? Because what you're doing is just gonna run you right into the ground, So I like that. Sometimes you just gotta give in and humble yourself and die to yourself, like they say, and live for whoever you choose to live for. But thank you for being transparent about that. A lot of people, young men, have a hard time obeying that. What was your other option? What were your options looking like at that time?
My options, man, this is gonna this is gonna sound a little bad, but my options. Are you saying my options if I didn't give my life to Christ?
Yes.
I'm gonna say at that time my options were to probably flunk out of school and keep working because I did have a job and keep having as much sex as I wanted, which was the biggest barrier from me giving my life to Christ. Because I was like, man, I ain't trying to give up sex. And that was a point in time where it was just easily accessible.
That's real. That's very, very real. You know, so let's tease that one out a little bit more, because I'm sure a lot of people struggle with giving their life to God because of those reasons. I know for me, it has always been weed. If I'm being real, weed has been like my biggest, like, I'll give up everything else. I'll give up food, you know, I'll give up my clothes on my back, but you know, it's been that pathetic, you know, for me. But what would you say that battle could be like? Cause it is a battle, man. Sex is your body. Cheating is everybody's, you know what I'm saying? Like in the world, like it's just, talk to me about that. How do you train your mind to just, I don't know, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say, so that was the biggest part. I was not trying to give it up. And I just let life get so bad that I had no choice. Then I finally gave my life to Christ, and I'll admit I tried and I failed. It took me a whole year to give up sex. And I want to say this, when I gave my life to Christ, I could hear God telling me, you need to leave your girlfriend. And
what?
And I tried, but I wasn't able to. And this is how I justified it. I was like, all right, Lord, I'm going to be faithful to her because I haven't been faithful to her, but I will give up sex with everybody else. And then when I'm ready, I'll let her go. And it took a very long time. It took a whole nother year for me to finally let her go. But honestly, that relationship was so damaging because it was based off of lust that after I went through all that pain and heartbreak, that's when I finally said, all right, Lord, I vow to never have sex again until I'm married because I don't want to go down that road again. And it wasn't easy, but somehow God carried me through.
Man, no, I'm saying, I just wanted to talk about that because it's really like serious. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I don't know why he gave us that, man. Like, but it gets us into a lot of trouble. Like, people really ruin their lives because of this, you know? I know for me, I also struggle with like a porn addiction, which I feel like our generation kind of succumbed to that because of internet and shit. So, that was another thing. I was like, fuck, like I ain't gotta have sex, but you know, like it's still bad. It's still bad, man. But what advice do you have for people who's trying to get on that same celibacy, waiting till marriage, our body is sacred type of wavelength?
The advice I would give that anyone that's trying to do that is, man, stay faithful to God. Surround yourself with people who are going to encourage you. Because if you surround yourself with people that are like, you're doing too much. Because you even have Christians that'll say that you're doing too much. If you surround yourself with them kind of people, you probably gonna fall. But if you get around some faithful people that'll hold you accountable, it's easier. And one thing that really helped me was finding a partner who's on the same road. Because here's the thing, I would tell people on the first date, you know, I wouldn't just throw it out there, but like whenever it came up, you know, whenever I feel like it was a good time to share, like, yeah, I'm waiting until marriage. And that made a lot of people leave me alone. So like that helps too, because now that they know where you stand, some people might try to still push your buttons, but some people would just leave. And that means that they weren't meant to be there in the first place. But yeah, you got to stay faithful to God, really give that to him. Try not to be too hard on yourself. Because similarly to Kamerie, even though I had given up sex, I had still struggled with porn and masturbation. And it was so easy to like get down on myself, to hate myself. But I needed to remember that I was forgiven, and that I even, it was a war. Like, I was trying, but it was so hard to stop. And God understands addiction. He really does. He has a lot of love for us. So, yeah, I would say don't be too hard on yourself. But just stay faithful to God, and he'll carry you through, because you never know. One day you might just get delivered, because that's what happened to me.
I love that. No, for real. Praying for that. Do you have time for like 2 more questions?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, for sure. Thank you. Okay, so also wanted to say shout out to you. I remember you actually started that challenge. Remember?
Yeah,
What was it
yeah, I
called? The
remember.
No Smack.
Yeah, it was
What
the
was it
no
called?
smack pack.
No Smack Pack. Oh my gosh, Charles! Like, just cool. Like, so what made you start that too? What made you want to start that for
So,
the same reason?
so one of my accountability partners, his name is Greg Norwood.
Mm-hmm.
He also went to TSU and Wheeler Avenue Baptist Church. So we were holding each other accountable on this journey of victory over sexual sin. And we were going through this book that had discussion questions. And one of the questions was like, what will you do to fight against this battle? Or will you start a group or something like that? And I was like, Greg, you ready to start a ministry? So, so we started this group me ministry called the No Smack Pack. Our slogan was, we ain't smacking that tail till we married. And it was great. And it's so crazy how God works, because that was 2019. 3 years later, the Lord revealed to me that he wanted to take that ministry to new heights. And we started a YouTube. It's called, and we changed the name because now it's more open to the public. The name is now Breaking the Chains Ministry. And we believe in breaking chains, and we're going to break the chains of sexual sin over people's lives. But yeah, God has really been working.
I love it. No, because it may not click with everybody, with some people right then and there, but like me, years later, and now me, whoever may be listening to this when it gets published, it might be the thing they needed to hear. Like, they ain't never heard of No Smack Pack until now, but just the concept of like, yeah, like, like, keep doing it, it really does matter. What you put out there, people are watching you. How you carry yourself, people are watching you. That's your brand, so much so that I wanted you to be on my podcast to share this. So thank you for being vulnerable about your addiction and your experience with that. Going on into marriage, what age were you when you decided to get married?
I was 23 when I got married. Wait, are
Okay,
you asking
and
what age I decided or what age I was when I got married?
how old were you when you got married?
23.
23, and you decided to get married before then or the same year?
Probably around like 22.
22, so like a year or so before. Okay. And what influenced you to want to get married at such a young age to some?
Well, I've always really, really desired to be married one day, since I was a kid. So it was always like a dream of mine. And, I don't know, it was something that I really, really wanted. I remember I used to tell God, man, you can do whatever you want with my life. Just please bless me with a wife. And, when I met my wife, originally I was not interested in her, but, she was such a good friend, and it was such a good safe place that I ended up falling for her. And I don't know, we just fell in love. It was magical. And I definitely wanted to marry her. Now, I will admit that I did speed up the process because I had been abstaining from sex for years, and the tension was kind of high. I was ready, and but yeah.
No, that's real, man. Man, 22. Oh, I'm 25. I seem so young. Oh my gosh. I can't imagine marrying no 22-year-old boy. But nonetheless, I do feel like the church, being in those type of environments, it's a different type of mindset too. So you may not be at the same maturity level as your other peers, who are 22. That's just how I think that might also be a reason why some people get married younger too. I don't know.
Yeah.
But what were some of the pushback you were getting from like your friends, your family about getting married at 22, 23?
They were telling me that I was rushing. They were telling me that it probably wasn't a good idea, that it wasn't wise, that I needed to just wait. And they were right. They were absolutely right. I really can't even argue against that. I didn't know how immature I was at 23. I thought I was mature. Um, Marriage exposes those things. And um, especially being married young. We were both 23, so there was a lot of stuff just getting exposed in the light, and it was just, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I see why people said to wait. Um, I will admit, I will openly admit, if I could do it all over again, I would do it so much differently. Um, but yeah, I will say this though. It is possible for a 23-year-old to get married if they are in a more mature mindset than I was. But I probably should have waited.
What were the main red flags? Like, Charles, you clearly not where you thought you needed to be at. Like, what were the red flags for yourself? Like self-awareness for people who may be like, am I like Charles? Am I like Kaylin? You know, can I relate to this? What were those red flags for you? I'm sorry, I'm gonna edit her name out. I didn't mean to say her name.
Say that again.
I'm gonna edit her name out. I didn't mean to say her name.
Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, so I'm gonna say number one, I was selfish. And I didn't even know I was selfish because like come to any other person, they probably would think I was selfless because I gave so much to my wife. And I really did. I gave her a lot of love, a lot of attention, but it was selfish in that like I was doing it and expecting it in return. Like my motives weren't pure. It really exposed my selfishness. I thought I was an understanding person. I was not. It really exposed it. Like when we had different perspectives, there was always a clash. I really couldn't handle the disagreements. I would just get upset. It exposed that I had a lot of unresolved anger that I hadn't healed from that would come out in arguments. It also revealed just trauma that I hadn't healed from, childhood trauma, relationship trauma you see, all my life, I thought like time healed wounds. Nah, that stuff comes out in your future relationships. And now I'm healing from that stuff, but I hadn't even acknowledged it. I had just kind of like learned how to forget about stuff and just keep moving on. But I had never learned how to actually talk about stuff that happened, the effect it had on me. Why do I behave in certain ways? Probably because of stuff that happened earlier in my life. So there was a lot of healing that did not take place.
Man, and I really was trying to like open that up because I think, we were at the same age. You're 25 or 26. I think
26.
You're older than me. 26. Okay, so you're 96. I'm 97. Okay, we're the same age range, and I obviously was not married to my partner at the time, but I felt like we were kind of, we were together. You and your partner were together, so I'm just wondering, like, okay, like, what was, because relationships are tough, and when you're in your 20s, you're still finding out what you like, what you don't like do I like this? Or, you kind of just, and you're learning yourself. Like it's stuff I learned, like, this year has been so big for me. I'm 25, the year they say our brain develops fully. And I've been dating different men and stuff, and it took me this year to be like, oh yeah, Kamerie, you have abandonment issues. Every man you've been with has been trying to tell you that. You don't believe people love you, but it will be like shown to me in different ways. They may break up with me or they may do other, but it sometimes is just, and sometimes when you're in a relationship and you're growing in that way, you do hurt each other just by default of y'all being together. So I know for me, like you said about not knowing you had those unhealed traumas, you had all type of wounds that you didn't even know your partner could trigger you in that way. I know my past situation, it actually, I think, I'm going to keep saying young because I think it matters when you're young. You don't have the wisdom to change, to pivot, to remedy the situation. I was going to counseling with my partner. I was going to in the church. I was going to counseling in the school with my partner. But I wasn't, I was thinking, I'm like, I'm doing all those things, but I didn't go back to the root of myself. We were doing everything as a couple as opposed to individual. And I know my personal situation ended up being like very violent. So that's one of the main reasons I had to separate. But for you in that, you're in a marriage, so it's a lot different. What would you say, you have to like do better moving forward? Anybody has to do moving forward in order to like sustain something like this, from what you've heard from people, wisdom.
Yeah, I would say number one, I need to continue a path of healing. And I say that because I really don't feel like I started healing until maybe January 2021. And then even the year of 2021, I was healing, but I was doing it kind of without direction. I was just doing it as God led me. 2022, I learned more. Like I started pinpointing stuff to childhood. I started pinpointing stuff to, oh, I have abandonment issues because this happened in my first real relationship. Just all kinds of different stuff. So I would say really continuing that path of healing, learning why you behave in certain ways and what's the root of the issues. I mean, it's a lot of stuff, especially if there's any sexual trauma. Man, that stuff, you really got to get to the root of that because it will really show itself up. So I would say number one, healing from those traumas. Number two, learning how to, I mean this in the nicest way, but learning how to deal with difficult people. So I'm in a season in my life right now where the closer I get to God, the more ostracized I feel, or I feel misunderstood. Similarly to Jesus and his disciples, or just many people in the Bible, they felt misunderstood by the general population. So I'm in a season now where I'm having to learn how to deal with people thinking I'm weird, people feeling like, I don't know, people just kind of either picking at me or always like trying to poke holes in the things that I say, I guess, because like it makes them uncomfortable. Light, the darkness hates the light because it convicts them. So, and this is mostly Christians I'm talking about, which is the crazy part about it, is other Christians. But God is really teaching me how to deal with difficult people, because in the past I used to think, well, maybe I should just distance myself and kind of like not cut them off, but keep a good amount of distance. But God is teaching me now, like, nah, you need to learn how to suffer, and you need to learn how to deal with difficult people and to handle different perspectives. And that's helping me in my marriage because, in marriage, you're going to have seasons where it feels like you're misunderstood, you're lonely, your spouse don't understand you, y'all arguing, and you kind of have to learn how to deal with that.
Right. I like that though. Like, learn how to suffer. Like, suffering is what makes you who you are. Like, if you have to go through something to get to something. Like, it's just no way around it. I even tell people now, like, stop trying to numb your feelings. Get comfortable with them. Get comfortable. Get used to them. You're going to go through them again. Something going to happen again. Somebody going to die again. Somebody going to break your heart again. Somebody going to make you happy. Like, let's be solid. Let's be ready for it, So I love that. But yeah, Charles, you've been such a great person to see grow, watch. I think that some people may be like that with you because they see something in you that people, years, looking forward, trying to develop themselves to be that, but it's just in you. And I could just tell, like, it's just, some people just have that ism about them, So keep doing what you're doing. I appreciate you so much. I'd also wish you the best with you and your marriage. I know it's not easy, but I'm sure y'all are going to be just fine. And I want to bring her on here too, and hear how her experience might have been as a young woman, because she went through it too,
Yeah.
You had your experience, but I'm sure as a woman she has her own. But last question, last and final question. What would you say to the younger Charles?
Ooh, man, that guy was hard to talk to. He was really prideful, didn't want to listen to nobody. What would I say to younger Charles? What age?
I would say the age you were most hard-headed.
Ooh. I feel like I went through so many different phases and seasons. Let me ask you, are you saying younger Christian Charles or younger worldly Charles?
I want to know worldly.
Okay. So younger worldly Charles, I said that's around 16 to 19. I'm gonna choose 19 because that was when I was in my prime of head-heartedness. Hard-headedness. I would probably, because I knew he wouldn't really listen, I probably would like just sit down and have a conversation with him. And honestly, I would not smoke with him because I do not smoke. But I would give him the space to sit there and light a blunt and be like, "Hey, bro, let's talk." And I let him do it because I know when he starts smoking, he starts talking, and I would let him pour his heart out to me because I don't feel like he had that. I'd be like, "Look, bro, I'm you. You can talk to me. Like, what's really going on?" I would try to break through that barrier because 19-year-old Charles was really trying to like prove himself. He was trying to prove to the world that he was hard and like nothing could shake him and that he was invincible and had no feelings. But man, if there was a way I could comfort him and like really just get him to cry, that would be my goal. And then just hug him because I know that's what he needed.